The now ubiquitous Acknowledgement of Country, that Aboriginal land acknowledgement statement, can now be heard at pretty much every single meeting in Australia and on virtually every Australian website. Even the government's own website, indigenous.gov.au, which explains the Acknowledgement of Country, has its own Acknowledgement of Country, a full-page pop-up that you cannot escape. That's essentially what this protocol has become. Inescapable. The government is very clear about what this cultural protocol means. An acknowledgement of country recognises that you are meeting on the land of First Nations peoples. For many, that can only be interpreted one way. Unless you're Aboriginal, this isn't your land. This isn't just racialised language, it can also feel deeply divisive. When should it happen? Officially, an acknowledgement of country can be offered by any person. It is given at the beginning of a meeting, speech or event. Yet, we've seen in practice it's increasingly used throughout meetings, not just at the start. It seems every speaker who steps up to the podium now feels pressured to include one, with those who don't being met with public condemnation. For example, the National Indigenous Times reported earlier this year, Minister refuses to acknowledge traditional owners. Northern Territory Chief Minister Finocchiaro was the only one of 8 speakers at the ceremony last week who did not acknowledge the Larrakia Traditional Owners, instead only mentioning veterans and their families. How dare she? 7 acknowledgements of country were clearly not enough. Consequently, due to this unwritten societal pressure, acknowledgement of country has become completely overused to the point of being tokenistic. One has to wonder if there's any genuine good coming from it anymore. According to the government site, it can be expressed for an organisation in different places, such as email signature blocks, websites, and on social media. Well, the Queensland Government has decided that emails are not the appropriate place for acknowledgement of country, with the National Indigenous Times reporting, Queensland Government accused of erasing acknowledgements of country from public service email signatures. And The Guardian, Queensland public servants forbidden from including acknowledgements of country in email signatures. The government denies it issued the directive. However, the opposition claims a whistleblower shared the document outlining the decision. Either way, Shadow Minister for Closing the Gap and Reconciliation, Leanne Enoch, said this was an insult to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. She said, "Under this Crisafulli LNP government, we've seen a systematic attempt to erase Aboriginal and Torres Strait people from all aspects of government life. This government is hell-bent on winding back any progress made regarding reconciliation in this state. This government appears to be finding new ways every day to unpick rights that have been hard fought for by many generations of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this state." Telling people in every email that unless you're Aboriginal, this isn't your land is now a right? Earlier this year, Pat Weir, Speaker of the Queensland Parliament, decided to expand the Acknowledgement of Country to include everyone, with the Australian reporting in March, "More inclusive, Speaker of Queensland Parliament changes Acknowledgement of Country." Specifically, in addition to the regular Indigenous acknowledgements that he makes at the sitting of each Parliament, he now adds, "I also acknowledge the former members of this Parliament who have participated in and nourished the democratic institutions of this state. Finally, I acknowledge the people of this state, whether they have been born here or have chosen to make this state their home, and whom we represent to make laws and conduct other business for the peace, welfare and good government of this state." Of course, not everyone is happy with this change. How dare the Speaker try to include all Queenslanders in the acknowledgement? Greens MP Michael Berkman said, "The acknowledgement has been watered down almost beyond recognition since last year's change of government to the point of being insipid, offensive and feigned. It is the acknowledgement you give when you want to be offensive." Mr. Weir responded to the criticism saying, The intention is not to water down the acknowledgement. The intention is to be inclusive of all nationalities that have helped develop this state. I come from Irish heritage. If there were any doubts on my decision, when I listened to the maiden speeches of new members whose families come from England, Scotland, Pakistan, Greece, and Northern Ireland, that is exactly the reason I did it. In my mind, the overuse of acknowledgement of country has only become tokenistic and divisive. I'd argue it doesn't help anybody and is only serving to divide society. Either way, the fight over acknowledgement of country continues.